morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Looking down the trail at 2017 as we bring you the first episode of what I think is our 25th year of being on your radio. We see a mixed outlook. Cows are in good shape. We're able to leave them out on grass much later than normal. And hopefully the hay supply will last until they can go out again as soon as we brand them in the spring. The calves, that is. Got the ponies outfitted with winter shoes and pads, and boy, that sure makes a difference. Now this week, you're going to hear from a guy who's been a working cowboy, a horse trainer, a guide, an outfitter. He's a fine songwriter, and he plays a pretty good-sounding resonator guitar. His name is Michael Hurwitz.
We get on them horses and just let them rip, you know.
And you wouldn't think an old trooper like Baxter Black would be afraid of much, but boy, this week he confesses to one big phobia and says,
"And if my phobia doesn't improve, I may opt to join a nudist colony."
And that is a scary picture. On the Rangeland News, according to the experts, for the first time in many years, food prices should be lower in 2017.
Is a result of an extraordinary combination of things: record large U.S. crop and livestock production, plus
lower oil and energy prices.
And in the cowboy poetry spotlight,
imagine you're a cowboy and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you.
That's the great Jay Snyder. And on the Irvine Tack and Western Wear horse training file, a listener says, "I'm working with a 3-year-old filly that really kicks at a rope around her feet. She'll get very nervous and blows up pretty good, especially if the rope gets around her back feet. Any thoughts on how to help with this would be appreciated, and we'll try and help." And the adventures of Mike Hurwitz coming right up after Oregon ranch wife and great singer Joni Harms takes us on a long, hard ride.
Taking care of the cattle with frost on my saddle. They're watered and well fed tonight. There's a new calf a-bawling, a light snows are falling, and it's been a long, hard ride. Now I'm heading for home, where I know it's safe and warm. Chores over, and I'm satisfied. Sit back, drop the reins, my horse knows the way. After a long, hard ride, you-do, you-do, you-do. Stars shine so bright. Lord, what a beautiful land. It's no mystery, it's easy to see. This was painted by the master's hand. And when he calls me home, I'll be safe and warm. Chores over, and I'm satisfied. Sit back, drop the reins, the Lord knows the way. After a long, hard ride, you-do, you-do, you-do.
I've had a couple of very enjoyable visits with Mike Hurwitz, and one of our favorite subjects when we get together is the unwritten code of the West, how regal cowboys reflect respect and cowboy pride.
My dad and I were trailing some cows one time, moving them to a different range, and we had just a few head with us, and 20 head or so, and we were headed through a little town called Centennial and stopped off at, parked the cows out of town and stopped off to have a bite to eat and a beer. I was maybe 15, 16 years old, and we got off, tied up our horses outside this little Nelson's Grocery and Cafe, and went in, and I noticed my dad took the spurs off and hung them over his saddle. When we walked in, and I paid no attention, and I walked in and sat down at the counter there. I ordered beer, and my dad did, and all of a sudden he reached over and cuffed me in the back of the head, knocked my hat off. I was like, "Whoa, what'd I do, Dad?" He goes, "Don't you ever let me see you wear a spurs inside a restaurant or public place again. That is the worst manners that anyone could possibly have." And ever since then, if I see somebody with spurs on in a room, it always makes me kind of shiver, you know. I know when I spent some time in Aspen, Colorado for a while. My sister was living down there, and she grabbed me, and when I first got down there, said, come on downtown, Mike, you got to check this out. And there was this Aspen Cowboy Bar down there with all these dude wranglers from the T-Lazy 7 up the hill, and they were all down there wearing their chaps and their spurs and dancing with these gals and tearing up the dance floor. And it was me and my sister sat there after a long time.
Can you tell the real deal from the wannabe?
Yeah, one thing they're not, the real deals ain't wearing their spurs in the restaurants and bars, going dancing with their spurs on.
Or even dancing with their hats on.
No.
Next, it's one of Mike's real good and true cowboy songs and more of his real-life adventures when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Besides being a good cowboy and horseman, Mike Hurwitz writes some good songs, and you'll hear one after we get back. We go back quite a while ago, back when he was somewhat younger than he is now.
When I was 16 years old, I remember I was working for the 91 ranch then, and they brought in the boss, old Carl Shakel, brought in a semi full of Mexican Mustangs that were supposed to be green broke, and me and this other kid, our job was to smooth them out into usable ponies for the string, and they were horses had never been touched by anybody. So our job for that whole summer was busting out them horses, and there were a bunch of old hands, a couple old guys, one old guy, Henry, that worked on that ranch that had been there for 40 years or more, and was an old bronc buster. Taught me a lot of tricks. He used to sit around and watch while we was in the round corral bucking them out, and just stand back there and lean on the post, and then I'd get off or get thrown off, and he'd come over and say, "You know what you ought to try there, buddy."
I imagine they fired pretty good somewhere. Like, did you have any time to do much groundwork with them before you had to saddle?
We were just rough breaking them. We'd get on them horses and just let them rip, you know.
So did you hit the ground a few times?
More than a few. And then I kept up with it, and over the years broke horses and trained horses for other people up into when I was in my 40s. And then I started realizing this is hurting a lot more than it used to. It takes more than a day or two to feel good again.
How many would you be working on at a time when you were doing that? How many could you take on to say? I was just going to say, when I was taking colts in for the public, I found that, boy, if I had any more than 6 or 7, that's about all I could get to.
Well, when you're 16 years old and, 16, 17 years old, you can go through 10, 15 horses a day and until you take the buck out of them, and then or you don't, whichever happens first. You got to always, the old adage, get back on until they quiet down. That was kind of what we tried doing, but a lot of times you get them quieted down one day, and the next day you get back on them, and it's like you never did anything with them.
Oh, he's not going to buck anymore.
Yeah, right.
You know, the hometown horse auction is about as entertaining as anything you can attend, and we have them here. And there's 2 horse sales a month, of course, at the Innisfail Auction Market in Innisfail, and Valley Auctions has them, Billings Livestock Exchange, and so many more around our listening areas. And I know a lot of us probably have stories about horses we could not resist bidding on, and that's the subject of this song from Mike Hurwitz.
Now Henry was a cowhand down on the 91. Loved to ride and rope, and he broke some just for fun. One day he spied a little blue roan with spots upon his back. He knew he had to have that horse, and good Lord, that was that. Now he raised his hand so well that it weren't a case of luck. When the man said, "Son, you bought a horse, hope you got $900. Henry digs out his robe, and he left there busted flat. But he trailered home that little blue roan with the spots upon his back. Now he pulled up in the yard about the time they finished chuck. So the boys was hanging out when Henry stepped out of his truck. Walked around the back real proud, but he ducked a second late when a hoof shot at him knocked him flat as he opened up the gate. Henry picked himself up off the ground, and the boys was laughing hard. Backed the blue roan out, and he leads him across the yard. Heard a yelp and spun around, but there weren't nothing there. Sis old Cookie's dingo pup went sailing through the air. Now he parked him in a round corral, and he went to get his rig. When he came back from the tack shed, roan was dancing quite a jig. Poles were scattered everywhere, and the line with the boss's shirts was tied around a blue roan's neck and trailing through the dirt. Now the blue roan, he was stout and quick, and cowy as could be. He could turn on a dime and give you change, suited Henry to a T. If you dropped the reins, he'd stand there still like a good cow pony should. You get to sneaking around behind him, boys, he's bound to nail you good. It was on a rainy morning when he broke old Jack's good leg. Gave the vet a dandy knot that looked like a hard-boiled egg. Clayton parked his truck behind him when he's tied up to a fence. Lost the mirror on his brand new rig and acquired some minor dents. That summer turned to fall, things went from bad to worse. If a blue roan's name was spoke at all, it was prefaced with a curse. The boss said, "Henry, you're a hell of a hand, but you just gotta know, we'd like to have you winter on, but that roan has got to go." Now Henry never was a man for sitting on the fence, so he packed his rig, drew his pay, though it didn't make much sense. Now he's camped up on the muddy, eating beans and bacon fat, his red eyes staring at the little blue roan with the spots upon his back. He'd say that horse for a nickel, and he'd never take him back.
Mike Hurwitz and the Little Blue Roan. Well, it's time for another story, Mike. What do you got?
I got a good story for you. There was, well, it's not, may not be very good, but it's true anyway. I was working for this old feller with this on this ranch in the Centennial Valley, and there was this old guy I used to ride with that I thought was probably the best cowboy I had ever met. And he was, you know, he wasn't that old. He seemed old to me at the time, but he was in maybe 60-something. my age now.
Oh, that's not old.
And he had one spur. He always rode with one spur, his right spur. And I looked up to him. Good, his name was Al, and I really held a lot of respect for him. A good all-around hand, but a hell of a horseman. And so I'd been riding with him and watching him. We were on the breeding crew where we'd gather in a bunch of heifers and they were bring them into the pens and they'd get AI'd. So that was our job, rounding up these cattle out there. And we spent a lot of hours in the saddle every day together. And I was watching him all the time with that one spur, and he worked that spur all the time. Was just tickling the horse with it, getting him to do whatever he wanted to do. So I actually took. I was about 14 then. I took to wearing one spur myself for a while. And one time I asked him, just because I thought he was so cool, One time I said, "Al, how come you wear just one spur like that? Where'd you learn that trick?" And he sits there. I was expecting something profound. He looked over and he goes, "Well, Mike, I'll tell you. I lost the other one about 46 years ago." And that was all he ever said about it.
Yeah, and I've left a few single spurs around the timbered, brushy rangeland. Some of them had jingle bobs on them, and whenever I ride in the last place I remember having them, I'm still listening real close. But next, you'll hear about a phobia that has haunted Baxter Black for a long time, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at mercophobia. I would rather look at a wire cut on the right hind foot of a saddle bronc than go shopping for clothes. I suffer from mercophobia, the unnatural fear of clothing stores. After unsuccessfully shopping on my own, I have found a person needs two qualities: a good memory and good taste. Now, I can remember songs and stories and poems and occasionally ladies' names, but I can't remember numbers. I do remember I'm 5'11", or 12, I think, and about 155 pounds, but my collar or my sleeve or my jacket size gets all tangled up in my brain. Maybe they should list them on your driver's license. Last winter I bought a suit coat. I have since had it made into a 4-man tent and a sheriff's posse flag. My jeans are too tight. They shrink, And when I wear my dress pants, it looks like I have 6 or 8 hand grenades tied around my waist. You'd think it would be simple if all you had to pick from was L, M, or S, large, medium, or small. Not so. L, M, and S are what the manufacturers put on them when they don't really know. You see, L is not the same in Taiwan as it is in Juarez or in Chicago. I think clothing stores get all their shirts in a big cardboard box, gate cut them into equal thirds, and just sew on the tags. And then you hear those ominous words, "Why don't you try it on?" Well, it's next to impossible to get your boots off in one of those closets the size of a Honda trunk. Well, the other quality, of course, was good taste. It's a personal thing, but I have found that there are certain things that are unacceptable to most folks. For instance, both pant legs should be the same color, and a brockled tie does not look good with a gray T-shirt and pink and green boots. I have chosen the only way out. I always wear jeans, and when people ask me where I get my clothes, I say, it was a gift. Well, they usually have some kind remark like, well, if it was a gift, I can understand. And if my phobia doesn't improve, I may opt to join a nudist colony, but it probably wouldn't matter. They'd just say that my eyes clashed with my mustache. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
How about a weekend pass to the 21st Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 16th to 19th, 2017. A terrific lineup of entertainers, including Kevin Davis.
Early morning finds me out along the Great Divide. I stop and watch the prairie come alive.
Jay Snyder.
Imagine you're a cowboy, and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you.
The one and only Ben Crane.
Hailing me
with checking cows in Saskatchewan's sandy hills.
And so many more. There's the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, evening concerts, a wonderful art and gear show, the Art of the West show and sale, workshops on everything from guitar playing to saddle making. The best place to get all the details is bcchs.com. And for tickets, call 1-888-763-2221. Sid Marty was a park warden from 1996 to 1978 in Yoho, Jasper, Prince Albert, and Banff National Parks. He spent part of his career patrolling the mountain backcountry with a saddle horse and a string of pack horses. His book, Leaning on the Wind, Under the Spell of the Great Chinook, was a finalist for the 1996 Governor General's Award for Literature. He won the Mountain Environment and Culture Award at the 1996 Banff Mountain Book Festival for that book. He's also a fine singer and songwriter and performer. He has a great group called Whaleback, and as you may know, my little brother Jim is the lead guitar player for that group when we give him time off from the Western Spirit. Anyway, I thought you'd enjoy this from Sid Marty's album Elsewhere.
The valley's getting wider now. The trail is just a story in an old man's head. Your pony's getting tired, I believe he's lost his sense of humor. The cold mountain wind, Lord, how it pulls on your hat brim. You're wishing that cold wind would go and lie down. The October weather makes your face feel like leather. You're half off the map, but the maps are half wrong. But maybe that wind arguing with the pines again. Maybe the wind wants to teach you a song. So just keep on riding, boy, riding off into the sunset. Step back into mountains and you step way back in time. Are you looking for ghosts? Or are you just asking questions? Questions so many have tried to decide. You long for a fire, well, under this heather. Campfires were burning centuries ago. And if you listen hard enough, down in the space between heartbeats, you'll hear the songs they were singing before. With your face scratched by timber and your boots full of river. Where is that campground? Well, I hope it's not long. But maybe that wind, she's now riding double with your friend. Maybe the wind wants to teach you a song. Maybe the wind wants to teach you a song.
Now the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
At the top of page 1, it says, for the first time in almost 6 decades, average grocery store food prices this year will be lower than the year before. And Gary Crawford delves into what's happening.
Up until this week, Ag Department forecasters were holding out the possibility that retail food prices on average for 2016 might still end up higher than 2015, but not anymore.
Currently, we're expecting to pay 0.25% less to 1.25% less.
And USDA food price analyst Anne-Marie Kuhn says having food prices overall turn out lower than the year before is so rare it seems hard to believe, but yeah, the last time food prices in 1 year were lower than the year before was when this Monkees song was a top hit in 1967. Anne-Marie Kuhn says this is a result of an extraordinary combination of things: record large U.S. crop and livestock production, plus
lower oil and energy prices, which decrease the cost for transportation, even food processing. And then we've also seen a very strong U.S. dollar,
which makes imported food cheaper for us, makes our food products more expensive for other countries to buy, leaving more supplies at our food stores. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
A well-known name in the auction business around the world made a bit of a big purchase before the end of the year. Ritchie Brothers has bought Kramer Auctions. The four key leaders of Kramer Auctions, Neil, Kim, Brendan, and Michael Higgs, have all joined Ritchie Brothers and will continue overseeing auctions in the Prairie Provinces under the Kramer Auctions brand. All full-time employees of Kramer Auctions have also been offered continued employment with Kramer Auctions through Ritchie Brothers. And Kramer Auctions has one permanent auction site, which Ritchie Brothers intends to lease from the Kramer family for the foreseeable future, located in North Battleford, Saskatchewan. Richardson International has been fined $50,000 for breaking export regulations in 2009 and 2010. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency said that between May 21, 2009 and November 9, 2010, Richardson International shipped almost 68,000 tons of soybeans to Russia without the required sanitary certificates. Richardson International pleaded guilty to contravening the plant protection regulations, and other charges were stayed. Well, Marty Seymour resigned last month as the CEO of Canadian Western Agribition after 5 years in the top job at the Regina Show to accept the position as Director of Industry and Stakeholder Relations for Farm Credit Canada. And Stuart Stone, the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Heartland Livestock, was re-elected President of the Canadian Western Agribition Board of Directors last month. Rejoining him on the executive are Vice President Ruth Holmquist of Saskatoon and executive members Chris Lees of Arcola, Blake McMillan, Nokomis, and Bryce Thompson of Regina. And both Lees and Thompson were re-elected to the board for 2-year terms, along with Doug Fee, a longtime stalwart of the Canadian Angus Association from DeWinton, Kim Hextall of Grenfell, Levi Jackson of Sedley, Marty Crutchville of Milden, and Ross McDonald of Lake Alma, and Carla Schmidt of Saskatoon. And Patterson Grain is delaying construction of its Bowden Grain Terminal until spring. The family-owned Winnipeg-based grain handling company had hoped to begin construction this fall, but meeting Alberta environment requirements in regards to wetlands is taking longer than expected, according to the company's corporate development officer. And Britain's new £5 notes bearing the portrait of wartime Prime Minister Winston Churchill have fallen afoul of thousands of people who object to the use of animal fats in the manufacture of the bills. An online petition against the notes started by campaigner Doug Maw was signed by more than 13,000 supporters in less than 24 hours. This is unacceptable to millions of vegans and vegetarians in the UK, Maw wrote in the online petition. And just a reminder that the BC Livestock Co-op's next Kamloops regular sale will be Tuesday, January the 17th. And keep in mind the co-op has a full line of livestock, health products, and handling equipment. And you can find a list of livestock haulers in the area on their website, bclivestock.bc.ca. And, of course, the Innisfail Auction Market has cattle sales, regular sales every Wednesday, and 2-horse sales a month. Many other special sales. You can catch up on what's coming up at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And that takes us down to the final item. In a Facebook post recently, the Kensington Police in the province of Prince Edward Island invited partiers to plan ahead and drink responsibly. For those dumb enough to drink and drive, Kensington Police had a special message. When we catch you, and we will catch you, on top of a hefty fine, a criminal charge, and a year's driving suspension, we'll also provide you with a bonus gift of playing the office copy of Nickelback in the cruiser on your way to jail. And it's been rumored that the police were saving Justin Bieber for far worse crimes. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Irvine Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, a horse that has a violent reaction every time he feels a rope touch his hind legs. More from Mike Hurwitz, a real nice song from the Rawlings Boys, too, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Just ahead of the Irvine Saddlery and Western Wear horse training file, here's a couple of guys I always enjoy, and when it comes to being cowboys, they're the real deal. Here come the Rawling Brothers with The Life of a Cowboy.
I've spent many a day riding the backcountry looking for strays between lodge poles and water holes and highlands. It's hard to keep track of the days. There's something about wood smoke and twilight, the smell of a good pony's hide makes a melancholy cowboy treasure each step of the ride. So sing me the song of western wind blowing through fields of timothy. Paint me the sky filled with northern lights and stars. Laugh like the old man river, cry like the rain, run like a horse, it's never been tamed. You'll understand the life of a cowboy. I lost touch with friends and family somewhere back on the trail. Never knew much of riches. I learned what it means to fail. But in spite of disappointments, thankful in my heart, 'cause with each passing moment there comes a brand new start. So sing me the song of the western wind blowing through fields of timothy. Paint me the sky filled with northern lights and stars. Laugh like the old man river, cry like the rain, run like a horse, it's never been tamed. You'll understand the life. You just might understand the life of a cowboy.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest western store.
Every time a rope contacts the back legs of this horse, the horse has a violent reaction. And we'll try and help on the Horse Training File. Experience the true spirit of the West at Canada's largest Western store, Irvine Tack and Western Wear. If you need a curb strap or a 4-star gooseneck trailer, you'll find it here. A saddle for every rider. Cutters, reiners, penners, trainers, working ranch cowboys, ropers. They have over 1,200 in stock. And they have Western wear for the entire family. And shop online at irvinesaddles.ca. Free shipping on orders of over $100. irvinesaddle.ca, 1-877-946-9494. Well, the question is, I am working with a 3-year-old filly that really kicks at a rope around her feet. She will get very nervous and she blows up pretty good, especially if the rope gets around her back feet. Any thought on how to help with this would be appreciated. Signed, Martin. Okay, Martin. A horse will fight when they feel like they can't take flight. Kicking is fighting, but if they're bothered by something above their back, they'll usually try and take flight. If something bothers them, usually I'll start up high with it until they start to accept it, and then I'll work down lower. By starting low with a flag or a rope, it's easy for them to fight it. If a horse wants to kick, you might put the loop of your rope through the seat of the saddle or even in front of the saddle horn so it stays in place, and let it hang over his rump, keeping it above his hocks. The idea is to allow them to move around in a round pen or on the end of the lead rope, taking flight, not restricting the movement so much that it causes them to fight. If they move too fast for too long and their adrenaline stays up, it can have a negative impact. If I don't see them making a change or trying to accept it within a few minutes, I would restrict their movement more by bringing their nose and causing them to step their hindquarters out a little more to help them find it. Let them soften up and accept the rope above their hocks, and then let it drop down a little bit lower. After they start accepting it in that position, you can position it to where one leg is through the loop and then the other. Again, regardless of how the rope is positioned, the idea is to allow or encourage them to take flight and not cause them to fight. Let them work at it for a short spell and then make sure they find a place that they can accept it. Good luck, and thanks for the question. You know, something our horses really enjoy is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration, and you can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. And that's the Irvine Saddleries and Western Wear Horse Training File. Enjoy the Kamloops Cowboy Festival without the worry of winter driving. Frontier Bus Lines will leave Central Alberta March 16th and return on March 20th. There'll be great entertainment on board, and the package includes luxury motor coach transportation, 4 nights accommodation at the Coast Hotel and Conference Center in Kamloops, $15 daily meal coupon, 1 transfer to the Horse Barn, a weekend pass to the Cowboy Festival, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday dinner and entertainment at the Convention Center. For more information, call 1-888-538-7287. Yeah, that'll be a fun trip for sure. We'll get back to visiting with Mike Hurwitz after another one of his songs, and this is with his great backup group, the Aimless Drifters, from his Cowboy Fandango CD.
It's just a cowboy song. It ain't right or wrong. Well, come on in, forget your cares. You know it won't take long, just a cowboy song. Put on your cowboy shoes, leave them city blues. The music's hot and the beer is cold. There's nothing you can lose. Put on your cowboy shoes. We'll sing a prairie tune to the coyote moon. Now let's get wild and woolly, crazy as a loon, to the badger dance. This high plains romance. Take my hand and hold on tight. Honey, take a chance to the badger dance. They got a jumping band, they're tearing up the stand. Fiddle, steel, and an old guitar, they're the best in all the land. They got a jumping band. We're drinking cactus juice, we're getting good and loose. Wave your arms, kick your feet, shake that old caboose, drinking cactus juice. hold on tight. Honey, take a chance and do the Badger dance. It's just a cowboy song. It ain't right or wrong. Well, come on in, forget your cares. You know it won't take long. Just a cowboy song. It ain't right or wrong. It's just a cowboy song.
So how far back in your life did you start into music?
I started picking guitar when I was about 13 years old. And, I picked up a few Hank Williams songs and some Southern blues from my mom. She was from Mississippi and always used to play these old blues records, so I loved the blues right away too. And I started, by the time I was 15, I was working in bars, playing, back then nobody cared, so we'd...
Legends. Tell me a little bit about this new album.
It's called Cowboy Fandango, and it's just a bunch of my own songs that are written over, most of them written over the last few years. In fact, all of them are pretty new, that are just cowboy songs about, some of them are kind of twisted. The way I look at things is not exactly, kind of look around the edges a little bit.
Like Baxter Black in a way, kind of beyond the edge of common sense?
Yeah, I'm sure it's lacking some common sense.
A little bit of a cross-threaded viewpoint.
Yeah, but, if everybody wrote the same, I mean, you can only hear so many songs talking about the coyote, beautiful moons and the coyotes howling and everything before you're kind of like, whoa.
Gotta be something else. Well, Mike, thanks for taking the time to do this, and really glad you got up here to Kamloops, and I sure hope it won't be long before our trails will cross again somewhere.
It was a pleasure getting to see you again, Hugh, and hopefully that what you say is true. We'll cross trails again soon.
Great to get horseback somewhere, wouldn't it?
Oh, that'd be fine.
Still to come, this week's classic Song of the West and the story behind the song, and then Jay Snyder in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West, and it's time for another classic Song of the West and some information about the song and the artists. Now, I've been looking back on some classic Roy Rogers movies in the last few weeks, and the more I watch, the more I want to watch. Bob Nolan and the Sons of the Pioneers were prominently featured in many of them, but another group was well worth seeing in many of these shows. In 1942, Foy Willing co-founded Foy Willing and the Riders of the Purple Sage, and the band originally included Patty Page on vocals. Their first hit, Texas Blues, was written by Foy Willing, and as their fame grew over 10 years, they backed up Monty Hale and Roy Rogers for Republic Studios. And they appeared as performers in a lot of Roy's movies in the 1940s and the early 1950s with Charles Starrett and Monty Hale. They disbanded in 1952. During the late 50s and early 60s, they occasionally reunited to record and perform, and then Willing went on to appear at Western festivals in the 70s. He also traveled with Gene Autry during Autry's North American tour in 1966. He died July 24th, 1978 in Nashville. Now, this song was a good one for the group, and if it was used in a movie, I couldn't find out any details. Maybe some of you know. There were many songs written and recorded with this title, but as far as I know, Foy Willing and the Riders of the Purple Sage are the only ones who did this one, Soft Winds.
Send her back home to me, send her back home to me, send her back home to me, send her back home to me.
Soft winds blow her back to me.
Send her back home to me.
When evening tints the western sky, I miss you most of all. Miss you more than you will ever know. Another day has passed away and twilight shadows fall. As the soft wind starts to blow,
Send her back home to me.
soft winds blow her back to me.
send her back home to me.
Though she's far across the sea,
send her back home to me.
For I live in memory.
Send her back home to me.
Soft winds blow her back to me.
Send her back home to me. Send her back home to me. Send her back home to me.
Soft winds blow her back to me.
Send her back home to me.
Send a kiss across the sea.
Send her back home to me.
Though we're many miles apart,
Send her back home to me.
send her back into my heart.
Send her back home to me. Send her back home to me. Send her back home to me.
Soft winds blow her back to me.
Send her back home to me. Send her back home to me.
Soft winds blow her back to me.
Send her back home to me. Send her back home to me.
Soft winds blow her back.
Jay Snyder from Oklahoma is a fine writer and reciter of high-quality cowboy poetry. Sure be good to see Jay back in Kamloops at the 2017 Kamloops Cowboy Festival. Here he is.
Imagine you're a cowboy, and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you. Now imagine it's late October and it's just now breaking dawn. The first blue norther's blowing in, warm summer days are gone. And you've roped yourself a flea-bit gray, a rangy, wild-eyed colt. Hand over hand you've walked your twine, just about to take a holt, when from underneath the loafing shed you hear a voice, not soft and sweet, but loud and overwhelming. It's your neighbor, Shorthorn Pete. Now Pete neighbors to you on the north across Persimmon Creek, but when you're in the breaking pens, he's by 10 times a week. Now Pete's physique, let's call it picturesque. No, let's just tell it straight. His waistline measures 46, the inseam 28. And his hair is wild and kinky against his head. It's matted flat, it's filthy, greasy, grimy, like the sweatband round his hat. The snooze has rotted most his teeth, on one he must depend, yet he can spit tobacco juice 10 yards agin the wind. And he talks real loud and boisterous 'cause his hearing ain't so great. His voice is shrill and squealy like a pig stuck 'neath a gate. And when you need him, you can't find him. But when you don't, he's underfoot. But when the going's rank and scary, well, old Pete, he won't stay put. Now imagine you're the flea-bit gray and you're just past 2 years old, and some bad bow-legged cowboy's got you roped and in his hold. Well, you don't take it kindly, you miss the freedom of the range, but, well, if this puncher gets his way, that's all about to change. Well, he smooched you round the round pen for seems 3 weeks now and a day, and, well, this A-fork's got you sored up some. By gosh, somebody's gonna pay. Then Pete stops by to visit, and making matters worse, and the puncher's left you bitted up, and you're about to die of thirst. Well, your attitude adjusts itself, 'cause, well, now Pete, he wants to ride. And Pete don't seem concerned at all, them gut hooks grab your hide. Then Pete begins to squealing in that loud, obnoxious way, and even though you've gentled some, fact is, you just can't stay. So you scatter rocks and kick the moon, show your belly to the sun. You bawl and squall and beller like a banshee on the run. You whirl and twirl and pirouette like a ballerina fair, and you rise up on your haunches like a raging grizzly bear. You buck and lunge and sunfish to the left and to the right. You squall just like a panther, and you kick and paw and bite. Now, imagine you're old Shorthorn Pete, and you're just 13 hands tall, and the gray is wreaking havoc, steady bouncing off the wall. Well, your face turns plumb canary green and your gizzard turns to jello, and that stripe that's running down your back shows wide and brightly yellow. The snooze that rotted most your teeth now coats the lining of your belly, and the fragrance from in your dungarees sure don't smell like wild plum jelly. Well, you reach for saddle horn and cantle, grab at airborne saddle strings while you're hoping and a-praying you could sprout big angel wings. But your backside kisses Mother Earth with an awful deafening smack, and you bounce just like a Shawnee Mills half-empty flour sack. Well, by now the moral to this story should be plain for all to see, that you best learn to whisper round those 2-year-olds like me.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride. I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And thanks again to Mark and Kathy McMillan, our great support crew. If you're looking for tractor parts of any kind, Mark can help. Just go to bctractorparts.com. And remember, there's great reading in every issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. You can find it at your favorite newsstand or subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.